From the Urantia Book, this is an article based in part on paper 143, Going Through Samaria. There are many other sections to this book. The first two paragraphs describe the setting where Jesus of Nazareth and the apostles are going through Samaria. The second section is from a little farther into paper 143, section 2, the lesson on self-mastery. As with the whole of the Urantia Book, it is an utterly fascinating narrative from section 4 of the Urantia Book, the life and teachings of Jesus. At the end of June AD 27, because of the increasing opposition of the Jewish religious rulers, Jesus and the 12 departed from Jerusalem after sending their tents and meager personal effects to be stored at the home of Lazarus at Bethany. Going north into Samaria, they tarried over the Sabbath at Bethel. Here they preached for several days to the people who came from Gophna and Ephraim. A group of citizens from Arimathea and Thamna came over to invite Jesus to visit their villages. The Master and his apostles spent more than 2 weeks teaching the Jews and Samaritans of this region, many of whom came from as far as Antipatris to hear the good news of the kingdom. The people of southern Samaria heard Jesus gladly, and the apostles, with the exception of Judas Iscariot, succeeded in overcoming much of their prejudice against the Samaritans. It was very difficult for Judas to love these Samaritans. The last week of July, Jesus and his associates made ready to depart for the new Greek cities of Phasaelis and Archelaus near the Jordan. 2. Lesson on Self-Mastery. The Master was a perfected specimen of human self-control. When he was reviled, he reviled not. When he suffered, he uttered no threats against his tormentors. When he was denounced by his enemies, he simply committed himself to the righteous judgment of the Father in heaven. At one of the evening conferences, Andrew asked Jesus, "Master, are we to practice self-denial as John taught us, or are we to strive for the self-control of your teaching? Wherein does your teaching differ from that of John?" Jesus answered, "John indeed taught you the way of righteousness in accordance with the light and laws of his fathers, and that was the religion of self-examination and self-denial. But I come with a new message of self-forgetfulness and self-control. I show to you the way of life as revealed to me by my Father in heaven. Verily, verily, I say to you, he who rules his own self is greater than he who captures a city. Self-mastery is the measure of man's moral nature and the indicator of his spiritual development. In the old order, you fasted and prayed. As the new creature of the rebirth of the Spirit, you are taught to believe and rejoice. In the Father's kingdom, you are to become new creatures. Old things are to pass away. Behold, I show you how all things are to become new. And by your love for one another, you are to convince the world that you have passed from bondage to liberty, from death into life everlasting. By the old way, you seek to suppress, obey, and conform to the rules of living. By the new way, you are first transformed by the Spirit of truth, and thereby strengthened in your inner soul by the constant spiritual renewing of your mind. And so you are endowed with the power of the certain and joyous performance of the gracious, acceptable, and perfect will of God. Forget not, it is your personal faith in the exceedingly great and precious promises of God that ensures your becoming partakers of the divine nature. Thus, by your faith in the Spirit's transformation, you become in reality the temples of God, and His Spirit actually dwells within you. If then the Spirit dwells within you, you are no longer bondslaves of the flesh, but free and liberated sons of the Spirit. The new law of the Spirit endows you with the liberty of self-mastery in the place of the old law of the fear of self-bondage and the slavery of self-denial. Many times when you have done evil, you have thought to charge up your acts to the influence of the evil one, when in reality you have but been led astray by your own natural tendencies. Did not the prophet Jeremiah long ago tell you that the human heart is deceitful above all things and sometimes even desperately wicked? How easy for you to become self-deceived and thereby fall into foolish fears, diverse lusts, enslaving pleasures, malice, envy, and even vengeful hatred. Salvation is by the regeneration of the Spirit and not by the self-righteous deeds of the flesh. You are justified by faith and fellowshipped by grace, not by fear and the self-denial of the flesh, albeit the Father's children who have been born of the Spirit are ever and always masters of the self and all that pertains to the desires of the flesh. When you know that you are saved by faith, you have real peace with God. And all who follow in the way of this heavenly peace are destined to be sanctified to the eternal service of the ever-advancing sons of the eternal God. Henceforth, it is not a duty, but rather your exalted privilege to cleanse yourself from all evils of mind and body, while you seek for perfection in the love of God. Your sonship is grounded in faith, and you are to remain unmoved by fear. Your joy is born of trust in the divine word, and you shall not therefore be led to doubt the reality of the Father's love and mercy. It is the very goodness of God that leads men into true and genuine repentance. Your secret of the mastery of self is bound up with your faith in the indwelling Spirit, which ever works by love. Even this saving faith you have not of yourselves. It is also the gift of God. And if you are the children of this living faith, you are no longer the bond slaves of self, but rather the triumphant masters of yourselves, the liberated sons of God. If then, my children, you are born of the Spirit, you are forever delivered from the self-conscious bondage of a life of self-denial and watch care over the desires of the flesh, and you are translated into the joyous kingdom of the Spirit, whence you spontaneously show forth the fruits of the Spirit in your daily lives. And the fruits of the Spirit are the essence of the highest type of enjoyable and ennobling self-control, even the heights of terrestrial, mortal attainment, true self-mastery. When you begin to practice self-forgetfulness and self-control in the place of self-denial, there is no place in the mind for perversion of the sacred gift of mind through intellectual masturbation of the truth. There is only loyally living as if in the perpetual presence of the Paradise Father, listening to the still small voice within, the very presence of God within your mind, heart, and soul.